Hi, welcome to our channel of IGNOU audiobooks, Indira Gandhi National Open University, School of Extension and Development Studies, SOEDS, Diploma, Postgraduate Diploma Programs, Postgraduate Diploma in Animal Welfare, PGDAW, MAW-001 Animal Welfare Science and Ethics, Block-1 Introduction to Animal Welfare and Behaviour, Unit-1 Animal Welfare, an Overview. 1.1 Learning Outcomes. A. Knowledge and Understanding. When you have studied this unit, you will be able to understand the concept of animal welfare and sentience. Be aware of how different viewpoints exist and how animal welfare differs from other terms relating to the use of animals. B. Practical and professional skills. When you have studied this unit, you will be able to discuss the differences between animal welfare, animal rights and animal cruelty. Summarize different views of animal welfare concepts. 1.2 Introduction. Dear learner, you may be aware that welfare is the name given to denote the level of health, happiness and prosperity of a person or group of people, otherwise described as well-being. In human terms, often this is meant to describe particular good fortune or happiness. The term as it applies to animals, or animal welfare, is somewhat similar and is given to the concepts that animals should be treated and managed in a particular way that provides for their health and happiness or well-being. Animal welfare can be applied to all animal species, sometimes preceded by fem or companion, or other words to denote to which group of animals the term is specifically referring. In general, however, we are concerned about the welfare of animals that are managed in some way by humans, and where we have particular responsibilities for their care. In the past, greatest concern about animal welfare has been related to livestock production in agriculture, and thus, farm animal welfare has received the most attention. Over time, welfare issues pertaining to working, performing, companion, zoo and lab animals have also received attention. Keeping all this in view, this program has covered welfare issues and standards of all managed animals comprehensively. Box 1.1. Box 1.1, PG Diploma in Animal Welfare, PGDAW. In PGDAW program, you will learn about animal welfare science, ethics, and standards which can be applied to all managed animals like 1. Dairy animals, large ruminants, cattle and buffaloes. 2. Small ruminants, sheep and goat. 3. Pigs. 4. Poultry. 5. Working animals. 6. Performing animals. 7. Pet and companion animals. 8. Zoo animals and other managed wildlife. 9. Lab animals used in biomedical research and teaching. Animal welfare is supported by animal welfare science, the practice of research that endeavors to provide evidence to support our understanding of animal welfare, in particular the perception and viewpoint of the animal on its own well-being. By using animal welfare science, we are able to give a voice to the animal to ask them what it is they find important or what they like. In this unit, we will consider the concept of animal welfare, how different viewpoints might exist and how animal welfare differs from other terms relating to the use of animals. The use of animal welfare science to provide answers and evidence for animal welfare will also be considered. 1.3 What is animal welfare? The OI, the animal equivalent of the World Health Organization, defines animal welfare as the physical and mental state of animal in relation to the conditions in which it lives and dies. Animal welfare is a complex and multifaceted subject, involving scientific, ethical, economic, cultural, social, religious and political dimensions. Here we will consider what animal welfare is, and how we can address welfare issues, particularly focusing on the scientific and ethical dimensions. There are many concepts of animal welfare, which will be discussed later, but in general there is agreement that animal welfare, just as with human welfare, is a property of the animal itself. That is, animal welfare is concerned with how the animal views its own life and experiences, how it copes with the environment in which it finds itself and how its quality of life is affected. This means that animal welfare concerns are usually directed towards animals believed to be sentient, and so are capable of conscious experience of the environment. Box 1.2. Box 1.2. Animal welfare. Animal welfare is a property of the animal. It is relevant to living animals and exists on a continuum from very poor to very good rather than being an absolute value. In law, for example, certain groups of animals are very clearly designated as sentient, and are thus classified separately from other products and tradable goods. This designation then affects the application of legislation to provide protection for these animals. This does not mean, however, that we believe that animals are similar to ourselves in terms of their abilities and emotions, but that animals have an ability to consciously experience the world around them and have an interest in their own quality of life. Their perception of the world may be different from ours, but it is important to them. They may also experience emotions differently to humans, but there is a general belief that these animals are capable of experiencing emotional states such as pleasure, pain, discomfort, contentment, etc. We differentiate animals from plants, usually, because of this ability of animals. Box 1.3. Box 1.3. Animal sentience. Animal sentience is the capacity to feel, perceive, or experience subjectively. In the context of animal welfare, sentience implies the ability to experience pleasure and pain. Animals may not understand everything as we humans do, but have the same needs for food and water, shelter, companionship, freedom of movement and avoidance of pain. There is no clear scientific division about which species may be sentient and therefore for which we should be concerned, i.e., for which species is animal welfare relevant and important. For most people, and this is included in legislation of some countries, animal welfare pertains to vertebrates and particularly to mammals and birds. There is less certainty that fish, reptiles and amphibians are sentient, although increasing scientific evidence supports the potential for these animals to experience emotional states. There is still greater uncertainty around invertebrate species, but a great deal of discussion and debate continues, with the case being made for crustacean and insects to show behaviors that could be interpreted as showing evidence of cognitive processes and emotional responses. For example, honeybees have been shown to be capable of highly developed social and cooperative behavior, and to show apparently pessimistic responses to particular conditions. However, for the purposes of this unit, we will largely focus on animals as mentioned in Box 1 in thinking about animal welfare, as the areas where most work has been conducted, and where there is least contention about whether we should show concern for their quality of life. Animal welfare is also understood to be a continuum, rather than an absolute value. Therefore, the welfare state of an animal can vary from very good to very poor, and all positions in between, very good, good, poor, very poor. In quality of life terminology, this continuum is seen to vary from a good life, through a life worth living to a life not worth living, figure 1, where the animal may be in such great suffering it might be preferable to the animal for it not to be alive. In this framework we might consider the entirety of the animal's life to date. So short-term compromises to welfare, such as experience of pain or disease, might be outweighed by an overall good quality of life throughout much of the animal's lifetime. However, where an animal is continually in pain, or suffers daily from excessive confinement or an inability to carry out much or any of the things it may wish to achieve, then the quality of life for the animal may be very poor indeed. In general, concerns for animal welfare have focused mostly on the negative end of the spectrum, with animal welfare being considered, for some, as a negative quality. Only very recently is greater consideration and emphasis being placed on the positive welfare end of the scale, and a good quality of life seen as a desirable and achievable endpoint for animals. Figure 1.1, Schematic representation of quality of life vs. animal welfare. Look at the screen. Fig. 1.1 emphasizes the continuous nature of animal welfare, and that this is not an absolute, but that the animal can exist at any point along the scale. Animals can also move up and down the scales at different stages in their life, and as different challenges to good welfare are experienced. Before we proceed, please complete Activity 1. Activity 1. Talk to friends or colleagues about a situation where an animal may have a good life, b. a life worth living, c. a life not worth living. Compare their responses to the discussion given in the section and write your observations. 1.4 Why should we be concerned about animal welfare? By reading the previous section, now you have a better understanding of the concepts of animal welfare and animal sentience. Then the question is, why should we be concerned about animal welfare? Broadly speaking, animal welfare concerns fall into four main camps. 1. Ethical, moral concerns about the lives of animals. 2. Human health and animal products quality concerns. 3. Environmental and biodiversity concerns. 4. Trading and marketing of animal products concerns. The other way of classifying is individual and organizational concerns for animal welfare. Let us discuss them briefly. 1.4.1 Ethical, moral concerns about the lives of animals. Firstly, animal welfare concerns are due to ethical or moral concerns about the lives of animals. As described above, this is often centered on a belief that animals are sentient, and thus that we have a duty to provide care for them and to protect them from harm. 1.4.2 Human health and animal products quality concerns. Concern for farm animal welfare may also be because of concerns about human health and product quality from these animals, and are associated with beliefs that improving the lives of animals on farm will have associated benefits for human health. This can be supported particularly for the presence of harmful bacteria, which may be more prevalent in intensive housing environments and can also cause human health issues. The widespread use of antibiotics in intensive animal farming can also be an issue for human health, as increased antimicrobial resistance can affect human and animal health. 1.4.3 Environmental and biodiversity concerns. Environmental and biodiversity concerns may also include concerns for animal welfare, where animal welfare is seen as part of a package of concerns about how we treat the planet. This may be part of a holistic view of planetary health encompassing all beings on the planet, or a specific view, such as organic farming, which considers both the environment and animal welfare as part of a defined farming practice. 1.4.4 Trading and marketing of animal products concerns. Finally, animal welfare concerns may be seen as part of trading and marketing concerns, either where there is concern for animal welfare arising due to the impact of these issues, or where animal welfare can be used as a marketing tool to leverage higher prices. 1.4.5 Individual concerns for animal welfare. Although animal welfare is a property of an animal, its subjective state, our individual moral or ethical thinking can influence how we might choose to behave towards animals. Legal frameworks may set minimum standards for animal use, but within that, ethical behavior towards animals can be a matter for individuals' own moral codes or ethical decision making. Example, you might have noticed several people offering food and water to birds during winter. This might be the result of a desire to ensure that birds have a better chance of surviving through the winter period, to reduce the suffering that these birds might experience through hunger, and perhaps because we are concerned about loss of habitat and a reduction in the size of a vulnerable population of a particular bird species. These are all coherent moral decisions relating to the welfare of the bird population. However, some neighbors may decide not to feed, water birds because they are concerned about the spread of disease by bringing birds into close proximity to one another. They may worry that this will encourage predation of birds by domestic cats, and that they will have a negative effect on bird populations. These are also valid moral concerns with relevance to animal welfare. Individuals, therefore, make choices based on their own moral and ethical understanding and beliefs. Individual concerns about animal welfare can have influence in a variety of ways, directly or indirectly. Directly through our own behavior in our dealing with animals, as in the example above. Indirectly through our behavior or lobbying for changes in the way that animals are managed, perhaps through legislative changes. Individuals are consumers of animal products, through eating meat, drinking milk, wearing leather, wool or other animal fibers, and through using animals for sport, leisure or work. Individual moral concerns can have an impact on animal welfare through buying behavior, for example whether we choose to buy and eat meat, and whether we prefer a particular animal farming system over another, eating chicken but not lamb for example. 1.4.6 Organizational concern for animal welfare. There are many organizations which give a particular voice to animal welfare. These include intergovernmental organizations such as the World Organization for Animal Health, OI, which sets global standards for animal welfare. Other well-known organizations include the Universities Federation for Animal Welfare, UFAW, World Animal Protection, Compassion in World Farming, CIWF, and the International Fund for Animal Welfare, IFAW. Each country will also have national organizations, such as the Animal Welfare Board of India, the Royal Society for the Protection of Animals, RSPCA, in UK and Humane Society in the USA. These bodies work to promote a more ethical approach to animal management, and have their own particular policies to promote or lobby governments for change. In addition to private moral views of animal welfare, commercial organizations have a moral responsibility towards animal care and use, either when their business interacts with animals directly, such as in animal agricultural production, or indirectly if animals are related to any aspect of their work. Organizations are, of course, required to work within the laws of the land in which they do business, but they may choose to have a greater moral concern for animals than legislation requires. Corporate social responsibility can include particular requirements for enhanced standards for animal welfare, which may improve the reputation of a particular company or organization, and provide their customers with reassurance about animal welfare. Activity 2. Reflect on your own view of animal welfare. Which area of concern is most important for you? Discuss these concerns with friends or colleagues to see which area of concern is most prevalent and write your observations. Activity 3. Choose an animal charity or organization where animal welfare may be relevant, e.g., a company where animal use is part of the business. Is there a policy on animal welfare for this organization? Does this protect the animals used by this organization? Discuss with them and write your observations. 1.5 Different views of animal welfare. In our use of animals, many different viewpoints exist about how we could and should treat animals. In this section, we will discuss some of these differing views, and how animal welfare fits into this thinking under the following heads. 1. Animal welfare. 2. Animal rights. 3. Animal cruelty. 1.5.1 Animal welfare. As described above, welfare of animals is a concept that relates to the animal's experience of its own life. This leads to a moral concern for the lives of animals because of their potential to suffer if their needs and requirements are not met. As we will discuss further, this concept often uses a scientific view of what animals may require from their lives and environments, in order to determine whether animals are suffering, and what can be done to mitigate this. This can act as a bridging concept, as outlined by David Fraser in 1999, which links the animal's experience, via the science that gathers evidence to support this, to animal welfare. Ethical and moral concerns, which determine what is most appropriate way to behave towards or to treat animals. One of the important factors in this concept is the use of scientific evidence to support moral decision-making around what are acceptable practices with animals. Welfare of animals is also heavily oriented towards care for animals, animal husbandry and living in community with animals. It accepts that animal autonomy may be compromised by animal use, but this is mitigated by increased standards of care, which may exceed what the animal would be able to obtain in the natural environment. 1.5.2 Animal rights. Animal rights, animal liberation or justice for animals are largely concepts based in ethical or philosophical thinking that focuses on the individual animal, and demand equality of treatment for animals with humans on the basis that each are sentient. These principles suggest that equal rights or consideration of their interests should be given to all sentient beings. Thus, justice and equality of treatment are very important in thinking about animal rights. However, this thinking does not really consider animal care or husbandry to be important or relevant concepts in the treatment of animals. In addition, this thinking can sometimes be very difficult to apply in practice where decision-making may be made at a population, herd or farm level, and where many conflicting issues can converge. Example, in thinking about wildlife population management, the competing interests of all the following need consideration in reaching an appropriate decision. Individual animals, the health and welfare of animal population, the environmental ecosystem and the lives of people who live within a particular area. 1.5.3 Animal cruelty. Cruelty can be defined as the deliberate or malicious infliction of mental or physical pain on animals, and indifference to their suffering. Cruelty, or animal abuse, can be by commission or by omission. Commission, cruelty, or animal abuse, can be by commission, where there is a deliberate act, such as physically beating an animal. Omission, cruelty can also be an omission that is by failing to act, such as not providing an animal with food or water. Cruelty undoubtedly has an impact on the welfare state of the animal, but the absence of cruelty is not sufficient for animal welfare to be good. Thus, although animal abuse and animal welfare are associated, they are not the same thing. Animal welfare considers the positive and neutral aspects of an animal's life, as well as the absence of negative states. Different views of animal use in terms of welfare, rights and cruelty are summarized in Box 1.4 for your understanding. Box 1.4. Animal welfare vs. Animal rights vs. Animal cruelty. Animal welfare focuses on the experience of animals and considers the care and husbandry of animals. Animal rights focus on equality of treatment of all sentient beings, including humans. Animal cruelty, or the avoidance of cruelty, focuses on negative aspects of animal misuse and abuse. Before we proceed, please complete Activity 4. Activity 4. Briefly describe an example of a situation where the outcome is concern for animal welfare, B. Animal rights, and C. Animal cruelty. 1.6 Summary. In this unit we have introduced the different concepts and views of animal welfare that are currently in use. We have learned that animal welfare is a property of the animal, exists on a continuum from poor to good and is a cause for concern for animals that are believed to be sentient. Animal welfare is protected by legislation. In some countries, by the welfare standards of global bodies such as the OI and by our own personal moral or ethical thinking. Thank you. Subscribe to our channel for more updates, and we will see you with the next chapter.